Have you ever met someone who seemed completely normal? They smiled, they shook your hand, they looked you in the eye. But then they said something that didn't quite make sense. Something that made you wonder if maybe you had just stumbled upon someone from another dimension, someone who knew things beyond your understanding. On September 17th, 1954, a man walked through the doors of Tokyo's Haneda Airport. It was just a regular day. To the casual observer, this guy seemed like any other passenger. He was dressed in a crisp, cream-colored business suit. He spoke fluent Japanese, French, German, and several other European languages. His luggage was in order. His passport looked legit. Even his demeanor suggested someone who had done this many times before. Calm, confident, cool. But when the immigration officer asked him where he was from, the man said he was from Taured. At first, the officer thought he was joking. Taured, he repeated slowly, trying to understand. Taured, the man confirmed politely. It's between France and Spain. The officer frowned. Taured wasn't familiar, so he assumed it was a new country or some obscure region he hadn't yet heard of. You mean Andorra? Not Andorra, the man replied calmly. Taured. My country has existed for over 1,000 years. The officer was baffled. He searched his records, but there was no mention of a country called Taured, nor did it ring a bell. Of course, this was before the days of Google or Wikipedia. So the officer was only working with the information he had. This man was claiming to come from a place that had been around for centuries. A place that apparently sat between two well-known countries. A place that nobody had ever heard of. The man was calm. He could sense the officer's confusion, but he also knew he was right. He pulled out his passport, which had multiple visas and stamps showing prior entries into Japan. All of it looked very real. And because he was coming from Europe, the officer assumed that the embassy would have informed them about this mysterious country. The man also had a European bank account, a letter of invitation from a company in Tokyo, and currency from several different countries, including Andorra, France, and Spain. But the officer needed proof, something concrete to go on. So he brought out a big map of Europe. The man from Taured studied it for a moment, then confidently pointed to the small region where Andorra should be. But on his map, that entire area was Taured. The officer couldn't wrap his head around it. They decided to bring the man in for further questioning. Before long, however, they learned that he was telling the truth. He had booked a room at a local hotel under his name. And when the officers went to that hotel, the staff confirmed that he had arrived. The clerk even showed them the confirmation slip. But when the police searched the room, they found nothing. There were no signs of a struggle. The man was simply gone. In fact, the whole thing was weird. The man had requested a room with a single bed, but the clerk remembered giving him a key to a double room. When he made the reservation, the man had paid for 2 nights. Yet when he left, he took his stuff with him and did not check out. Then there was the driver's license. It looked real, but it was issued by the Taured government, which didn't exist. The man had also claimed to have visited Japan many times before, and when the officers checked his passport, they saw what appeared to be Japanese stamps, but those turned out to be fake. It was almost as if someone had made a custom stamp and pressed it into the passport. The officers decided to keep the man overnight in a hotel room, this time with 2 guards standing outside the door, making sure he didn't leave. But the next morning, when they went to question him, he was gone. The door was locked from the inside, and there were no signs of forced entry. His briefcase, documents, and passport were all gone. It was as if he vanished into thin air. News of the strange case spread throughout the department, but nobody could figure it out. The man from Taured was quietly archived, and the story died down until it resurfaced decades later. Now known as the Taured Incident. Some believe the man was a time traveler from a point in the future where Taured was indeed a country. Others say he was from a parallel universe where Taured has always existed. Still, others claim he was part of a top-secret experiment, perhaps involving teleportation or interdimensional travel. And when authorities realized who he really was and where he was from, someone came back for him. But perhaps the creepiest theory of all is that the man didn't come from somewhere else. Maybe he was always there, here, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to reveal himself. There are many theories surrounding the identity of the man from Taured and where he could have come from, but unfortunately, the truth is that nobody knows for sure. Whatever happened to him, whatever his story may be, it remains a mystery to this day. The idea of a country that sits between France and Spain but has somehow managed to remain hidden throughout history is intriguing. Could there be places that exist outside of our perception, hidden in plain sight? And if so, how many secrets are lurking just beyond our awareness? Interestingly, there are a few similar cases that have been reported throughout history. For example, there was a man who appeared in Germany in the late 1800s. He spoke a language that nobody could understand and carried coins from a country that didn't seem to exist. Could these be connected, or are we merely witnessing the occasional glitch in the matrix? It's important to approach such stories with a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking. While it's fun to speculate about parallel universes and time travel, it's also important to consider more mundane explanations. After all, there are plenty of cases of people who have mistaken one country for another due to similar names, or have traveled to remote locations that are rarely visited by outsiders. However, it's also worth keeping an open mind. We don't know everything about the universe, and there may be things beyond our current understanding. Who's to say that there aren't multiple dimensions or alternate realities that we can't perceive? Ultimately, the mystery of the man from Taured serves as a reminder of how much we don't know. There's a lot going on in the world, and there are probably many things that are happening just outside of our awareness. So the next time someone tells you they're from a country you've never heard of, don't assume they're crazy. They might be a time traveler, a spy, an alien, or simply someone who's been to a place you've never been. Or perhaps they're from a parallel universe where Taured is real. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. Also let us know in the comments what you think happened to the man from Taured, and check out these other videos. Thanks for watching.